how cultural issues are addressed now is a problem, especially as it relates to, like, historically speaking. I would say cultural issues were addressed with religion and religious institutions, and like that helped establish your culture.
Now it's addressed by
Now,
Andrew Tate.
right, right. Now it's, yep. Now you got Andrew Tate, and you got, like, you have social media, you have the information age, and it's just like people are going into their own media silos and just hearing the same thing over and over again. And I think right now, especially even with the, like, there are a lot of people who are non-religious, who don't identify with religious institutions. Young people in general are less religious. They're not attending church regularly or any religious service weekly. And I think that used to be the the cultural shifter in America by far. I mean, it's just like the civil rights movement for African Americans. It was the
Dr.
place for
King,
that, right? The
Reverend.
place for that, Reverend, absolutely. And it's just like that shifted us culturally so much. And now that we don't have that, and this is not only for the African American community, this is for Americans in general, maybe even the world, if everyone is trending uh, in that way. It's how can we address cultural issues moving forward? And I think now, I guess this is the way, just like you said, now it's Andrew Tate. Now it's influencers picking specific cultural issues that they want to represent. Andrew wants to represent uh, masculinity and wealth and greed, and Sam and Harris wants to represent intellect. Jordan Peterson wants to represent uh, family, uh, intellectual growth, overall well-being, and I think that's
Here's one concern I have. Now, I'm not pro religion, but one thing that I give religion credit for in terms of its usefulness is I think it religion in many ways can counteract our nature. Um,
absolutely
so, but the free market doesn't do that. It's the opposite. It
right.
feeds into our base nature, right? So
Yep.
there's the concept of like audience capture, where like maybe we start off as we're honorable, heroic, leaders that want to bring back intellect and enlightenment values, and then we make a video about cats and they just start taking off, and it's like, well, I guess we're a cat video channel.
Right.
No, sometimes like what works in the market just ends up taking you there, and either you get on that bandwagon or you just stay small. And then by almost definition, it's like, okay, well, we wanted to have a good system to bring people together and do some of the stuff religion used to do, but instead you end up with Andrew Tate and OnlyFans running
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how we fix that issue other than influencing, either like championing ideas that we think are productive and then picking influencers to represent that, and then just like uh, maybe
we
trying.
got to use that bad tool we was talking about, logos. We got to use the worst one.
Yeah,
We
I mean, and that's,
got to fight some OnlyFans models with logic.
yeah, and I mean, it's
Look,
just
that
like,
OnlyFans is a red herring. Don't.
like, you're right. But now that I'm thinking about it, man, now that I think about it, not only was church and religion culturally helpful, but it also helped in terms of, like, what relationships and
Dating.
people
Yep.
meet and dating, and that's where it's just like we are really shifting away from that. And I think that's again, like, a lot of younger black people, or younger, like, they met in the church. They met in the church, or they met at church or some church event, especially if he was going to church Sunday, Wednesday, Friday. You go into different churches. It's just like, now that you don't have that place where you can even have interactions with the opposite sex. I mean, it's just like I think that is, I think some sort of cultural institution may be the fix for a lot of America's issues.
Well, I mean, we already have you talking about it. So what's the problem?
I mean, it's not. Yeah, it's not that. I am not for religion in the context. It goes against objective reality, and I think it's going to do more harm than good. In that context, it's just like education that needs to be reformed, and it's it's interesting that there's still a need for something like that because it's just like from a non-religious perspective, you would think that feeding into some sort of emotional or psychological construct, metaphorical substrate, whatever it is that you want to call it, you would think that that's just baggage. It's unnecessary. It's not. It's not being true to really understanding the real world and just like all of the negatives and just randomness that exists. Just like you're going out of your way to create structure out of what should be just the wild wild west.
It
And
is Wild West. That's facts.
right,
Whether you want to think about it or not, it's the truth.
right, right. And that's where it's like you would think that the best way to deal with the wild wild west is to just acknowledge that you're there. Um, but
The Wild
for
West is cold, man. It's a cold place.
yep, I was just about to say for society, and if you're talking about keeping civilization intact, I think you do have to think about uh, some of that what I would call unnecessary. But I think you have to think about some of these cultural issues and how you address it, and it may be an institution, and it sucks.
It's like we're
Is
in the Wild West, but we want our mama to sing to us and rub
right,
our belly and make us feel like
right,
we ain't there. We
right.
really in Santa Claus's backyard. But like, nah, it's at any moment a man can come from behind that tree with a weapon, and your whole life is
Absolutely,
gonna change.
absolutely, absolutely. And it's like that's the fact of reality,
But
and
no,
it's
I think
actually
it goes right back to our conversation, which is I could tell you the logos, but that's the least effective thing that I could tell you. The more
right.
effective thing I could tell you is something that's going to manipulate your emotions or something that's going to give you something to believe in, something you think you can trust, right? Like that's going to impact you a lot more than me giving you a logical argument. And I
And that's the
think that's
problem.
exactly why religion works is because it gives you that emotion, it gives you that something you can trust, and the logic ain't really there. But that's the least effective part.
Then that means education is like so. That's the biggest problem in America. Then is education because the
And
only way you fight it.
there's inverse relationship between education and level of religiosity.
Absolutely, I think that is the key. Now that I'm really like, now that you really get down
But
to
let
it,
me
it's
say
just
that's the key, but that's also the problem,
it is. Yep,
right? Because the whole point we was talking about is like religion gave folks a reason to meet up. It gave folks,
it did.
some of that cohesion and we lost that now. And so it's like, okay, we could get rid of that with education, and you could argue we already have, and we are succeeding. But now we're running into these problems. So the bigger question is, how do we solve those problems in a way that can still use logos that isn't just another emotional appeal
Right.
to some story.